everyone! This week, we celebrate the 33rd week in Ordinary Time. Next week is our very last year of the church calendar. We celebrate Jesus Christ, the King of the universe. And then, after that, we start a whole new church year again. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Some people were talking about the beautiful stones used to build the temple and about the gifts that had been placed in it. Jesus said, "Do you see these stones? The time is coming when not one of them will be left in place. They will all be knocked down." Some people asked, "Teacher, when will all this happen? How can we know then when these things are about to take place?" Jesus replied, "Don't be fooled by all those men who come and claim to be me. They will say, 'I am Christ,' and now is the time, but don't follow them. When you hear about wars and riots, don't be afraid. These things will have to happen first, but it's not the end. Nations will go to war against one another, and kingdoms will attack each other. There will be great earthquakes, and in many places people will starve to death and suffer terrible diseases. All sorts of frightening things will be seen in the sky. Before all this happens, you will be arrested and punished. You will be tried in the Jewish meeting places and put in jail. Because of me, you will be placed on trial before kings and governors. But this will be your chance to tell about your faith. Don't worry about what you will have to say to defend yourselves. I will give you the wisdom to know what to say. None of your enemies will be able to oppose you or to say that you are wrong. You will be betrayed by your own parents, brothers, family, and friends. Some of you will even be killed. Because of me, you will be hated by everyone. But don't worry, you will be saved by being faithful to me." The Gospel of the Lord. In this week's Gospel, we hear about how the world can be very scary. But if we focus on Jesus, we will be okay. Jesus starts by telling us that the beautiful temple will eventually be knocked down. How can this happen? How can people worship God without the temple? It turns out that when the temple is knocked down, people have to focus directly on God because there is nothing in between and nothing to be distracted by. It's not good when bad things happen, but sometimes when things happen that we don't expect, it can take away anything from distracting us from God so we can fully focus on God. As soon as people heard the temple would be destroyed, they wanted to know when it would happen. But Jesus did not answer them directly. It sounded like to Jesus, maybe it didn't matter when it happened, just how we react. He said others would come and say they were sent from God, but we should not listen. Chances are, if they had to tell us they're sent from God, they probably aren't. Remember, Jesus had crowds of people following him because they could tell he was from God, not because he told them. Jesus told us we would experience war and earthquakes, terrible diseases, and frightening things. But we aren't supposed to be afraid. How can we not be afraid? We have to trust in God to take care of us despite what's going on around us. If we focus on God, the scary things around us will fade into the background and we'll just see God taking care of us. Then Jesus said his followers would be arrested and asked to speak in front of kings and governors about why they were following Jesus. But he said not to worry about what to say, because Jesus would give them the wisdom to know what to say, and no one could disagree. That sounds a lot like focusing on God and not worrying despite what's going on around us, even if we're asked to speak up. Jesus said his followers would be hated because of following him, and maybe even killed. But even then, they shouldn't worry, but trust in Jesus. Do you remember how Jesus did not answer when these things would happen? I think it's because he's telling us it doesn't matter when it happens. If it happens tomorrow, or in 10 years or 1,000 years, the point is to focus on God and not be scared. What is something happening in your life right now that is scary? What happens if you completely focus on God?